Dan, over to you. Give yourself a quick 1-minute introduction about you, yourself, and what you do.
Okay, yes. So I am Daniel Ibbertson or DJ Slope from Slope's Game Room. I'm not Larry, as many people believe that I am. Yes, I have a YouTube channel where I talk about weird gaming facts and horrific Kickstarters. Yeah, that's primarily me in a nutshell. I like to look into the more obscure side of retro gaming. Everyone knows about the video game crash of 1983. Everyone knows about the Atari cartridges in the desert, all that sort of thing. You know, Doki Doki Panic is Super Mario 2. I like to bring more gaming facts to you guys, and that's what my channel is based on, as well as those Kickstarters as well.
Yeah, and there's to be fair, I've actually been enjoying a lot of those Kickstarter ones. There's quite a few that have actually made me laugh. Now, admittedly, I did actually own and actually back the Ouya, which will probably make a few people, question themselves, knowing that I now have said that. But do you know what? I thought it had promise. I really did. I thought it had something there, but as we know, it didn't. But anyway,
I've got one. I mean, I didn't back it, but I've got one.
Yeah, it's a shame. It was a great device, and I think it was a shame it just didn't have what it was meant to live up to be, but never mind. So, I mean, coming back to yourself and obviously the amazing content you made, I mean, your channel's been going since 2014. That's incredible.
Is that where it says? That's when it says it starts. I know when I started, there was like 2 or 3 years where I didn't do anything. It was like, you know, I want to do that YouTube channel one day. I really need to get to that YouTube channel one day, you know. And then when I finally did, yeah. So I can't remember exactly. It was my 5-year anniversary actually this year. So whatever that is.
Yeah.
2014.
Yeah.
That's when I started.
Yeah. So I mean, the fascinating things. I mean, I was kind of going through some of your past catalogue, and I think, I mean, we were talking before the stream, and it's been brilliant to see the kind of migration of kind of how your content has evolved throughout the years and stuff. And I think that's really nice when you go through some YouTubers, and I mean, you can clearly see year on year your content has just really got to a brilliant level, and what you produce is a fantastic piece of content, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. And I think that's the important thing that you do with your content that you make as well.
Don't stop. I love listening to this.
take the compliments. Oh, don't stop. I'll stop here. But yeah, what?
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, I always see that, you know, I can improve if I had more time to do this. And, you know, as time goes on, I've had more time and I've learnt new things. So, yeah. When channels start becoming stagnant, that's when they start going, you know, down. And I think, like, you know, people that watch this stuff can see that, you know, the death of a channel where people start loving it and stop losing interest in it. I'm not. I've got too many stories to tell, and I want to get them out, you know. So yeah, I just like to improve as much as possible.
Exactly, and I think that again comes to that evolution I was talking about, where it's an incredible ride to see how your content evolved, and you change the topic matters, and, you know, you go into some really interesting subject matters which catch you. I mean, it caught me off guard with a few of them and stuff. And in fact, last night I was actually watching the Splatterhouse one.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Videos,
I don't know why. I was just randomly going through, and I thought, oh, Splatterhouse, that would be an interesting one. And yeah, I mean, even like there was pieces in that I had no idea about the game and stuff. In fact, I didn't even realise there was a third one made. So there you go. There's
the third game. I tell you what, it's amazing. That's one of my must owns for my Japanese Mega Drive collection. I want that game so much more than 2 and the original arcade. I mean, obviously that's a ROM essentially, but number 3, amazing. It's sort of like a mix between Streets of Rage and Splatterhouse. It's incredible. It's awesome.
Oh, I'll have to go and see if I can play that at some point, because I mean, it looked very, very different, and as you said, like, where you can walk through the different areas and explore in your own way. I mean, that's pretty impressive for a game of that era to even have that kind of thought process and guide a gamer through that kind of interface. I mean, it's fantastic to see. And but yeah,
it didn't come out in the UK either.
Damn it! And us on this damn island, we don't get games. No. So how do you choose the subject matter that you're going to create content for? Is it kind of, you've got a massive list that you just pull things out of, or is it just, you know, what you discover?
Pretty much that. I mean, I've got my ones that I know I'll always want to do. Like, for instance, right now I'm looking at my Mega Drive collection, and I've not done Altered Beast yet, and I love Altered Beast. So I'm obviously going to be doing Altered Beast at some point. You know, things like that. I know there are ones that I'm going to do. I'm looking up there. You can see I'm looking up because it's behind the camera. Some of my Mega Drive games.
To the heavens of the Mega Drive heaven. There we go.
Yeah. And that's essentially it. You know, I'm always finding cool, interesting blogs and you know, all of these different articles in retro gamer magazines or whatever it may be, and I'm like, That's very cool. And I've basically got a Google document open, and it's just full of, that would be good for a top 5 about this particular thing, or that would be good about, maybe a Kickstarter video. And then eventually, as it goes on, when I get to about 3 or 4 that would fit into that category, I'm like, right, I need to find something else related to that particular topic. And that's it. The complete histories are just simple. I want to know everything there is to know about Game Ground, and I'm just going to go out there and find it. And then that's just how it goes. Sometimes, I run around and I'm trying to find information on, for instance, Power Stone or RoboCop versus Terminator, and although I can find information about the history of RoboCop versus Terminator, I can't find about the history about the game. So sometimes it doesn't always happen, but but for the most part it does. There you go. That's how it comes about. I just it's a very on the spot sort of thing.
So there must be an incredible amount of research that you have to go into, because I mean, I've kind of seen other content creators, not that we know, but I've kind of browsed the internet, and you can clearly see it's been a copy and paste job from like Wikipedia, which they've then just turned into something, which fine, if it gets some success, fine. But I mean, you can see the meticulous amount of information that and detail that you go to with your videos. So how do you find this information without giving away too many secrets, obviously? But
no, that's fine. I mean, magazines like Retro Gamer. I'll move my camera up a little bit.
There we go.
There's lots of Retro Gamer magazines
behind the scenes in Slope's Game Room. You got it here first. There we go.
There you go. There's things like that. I have so many different types of blogs and very, very good resources that I would go to. They're basically, I've actually done it before where I've written a script. I'm trying to think of one. I don't know. Maybe a Road Rash. It happened to me actually. So I've written a script. I've talked about its history because I've taken it from 1 or 2 sources. And that sort of thing. And then what it is, once it's pretty much done, before I've voiced it and all that sort of thing, I will then go and check 3 or 4 other websites that I know are really well respected. Even things like Sega Retro are essentially Wikipedia because it's made up by other by fans essentially. Sure. But even places like Wikipedia, because sometimes you'll read through it and you're like, hey, what are they talking about? And there's always the resources at the bottom of the screen. So you can always go down to the bottom, to those resources and double check your facts. So that's it. Sometimes they can take 1 day to do a video, but other times bigger ones can take so long. From time to time you do need to find the really obscure stuff, like you need to buy a particular record because it's got the information inside when they interviewed someone, and you can't find that online, so you have to go out and you have to buy something to find that. That's basically what happens with certain ones. It comes from all over the place, but I've got 3 or 4 different places that I go.
That's really cool. I mean, it's fascinating to hear kind of, again, as I said, the amount of detail that you get into your videos is really interesting to see. And obviously now we've just discovered the amount of work and effort that you have to go into to obviously collect this information is paramount and key to the content that you're creating. But that's a very interesting segue that you've mentioned records, because just behind you looks like a fine collection of music there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's my your camera's got it actually. I've got the vertical record player up there as well. By the way, everyone, I do apologize, my room is absolutely smashed up at the moment because we are moving everything into a games room, a sort of family games room cinema that we're building, and it's just near the end from the builders are just finishing it off, so that's why everything's been moved up here. But the video game vinyl collection, that's primarily the top 2 shelves, definitely, are all video game vinyls. I like collecting them. I think they're cool things to have.
So here's a $1 million question: if you could keep one of those records, what would it be? Ooh.
It's not the rarest one by a long way, but this one right here on the end, the first one I ever got. Ooh. I think it's going to be the surprise to no one that I would choose. I haven't even looked at it. Make sure it's that one. Yeah, it is. There you go.
That is a strong choice. I think we can all definitely agree there.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people choose number 2 over number 1, but yeah, I've always been about number 1.
No, it's a fine collection of records you've got there, I must say. I mean,
it's cool.
I mean, are they mainly sourced over the internet, or do you actually go out and to a specific
I've never bought one of those video game vinyl ones from a shop, I don't think.
There's a gap in the market there, everyone, if someone wants to go and set up a store.
I don't think any of them, actually, at all. Yeah, I'm pretty sure none of them. Yeah, no, they've all come from like weird record labels from America or Black Screen Records. Obviously, Data Discs are one of my favorites. Screenwave. There's some great ones there. Ship to Shore, they're fantastic. Yeah. So.
Interesting. So since we're on the topic of music, and you are a DJ, which those who attended the start of this, the mix that you heard was by that man, who produced a fantastic mix. I think we can all agree. I think we were all bopping away before the stream. So going into your music, kind of, has DJing been a huge part of your life, or was it something that you kind of studied and built up to? So what was kind of the musical elements of kind of your background from?
Well, I mean, growing up, I was always into music. My mum's actually got incredible taste in music, which not many people say about their parents, but she does. I mean, I grew up listening to, I know not everyone in here will know this, but in the UK, there was a record label in the 80s called Street Sounds. And although they ended there was a bit of a mess up towards the end of the record label's life. Basically, what they did is they would bring a lot of house music, garage music, hip hop, electro, that sort of thing from the States and release it in the UK. And I got really, really into listening to all of this music. It wasn't underground as such, but it was very much this record label that pushed it, among others, but this is one of the main ones. And I got obsessed with like discovering things. I mean, there was the obvious things like Rapper's Delight, that sort of thing, but like looking into the Jungle Brothers and Let the Music Scratch, which is actually my first ever. I've probably got one down here, maybe. Ooh. Here we go. This is the first proper record I ever owned. Well, I say owned, given it from my mum. And I was obsessed with all of the artwork on that, and it's absolutely incredible. And it's a mixtape on a vinyl. And basically, it's some great stuff. A lot of Shannon music on there, so Let the Music Play. It starts off with some classical music and goes a weird little electro, and it just makes me wish I was, I was wearing a tracksuit and going to an 80s rave or something, listening to that sort of stuff. So I got really into that sort of thing. As years moved on, I got into like rock music as well. And obviously when I connected those two dots together, I mean, there was the new metal scene that tried it with like Limp Bizkit and whatever. But looking at people like one of my favorite artists, the Mad Capsule Markets, which I know Bex is watching, so she knows people like them, and Pitch Shifter and Skin Dread, and one of my new favorite artists, AA Equals, which are All Animals Are Equal, a Japanese band. So I was always really into discovering stuff like that. Obviously, I wanted to DJ that sort of music as well. Sadly, that ended up me just needing the money and doing wedding DJing, because you can get some serious money wedding DJing.
Agreed.
I mean that's where it lied, and from there I ended up doing I've done a couple of festivals. I do Download Festival, which is one of the biggest metal festivals in the world, which is really, really fucking cool. I've not played there the last couple of years, but yeah, I DJ there quite often, among other places as well. That's basically how it went down.
So now that you've actually, I mean, I've got a list of things here, and you've already just hit on one. So how did the download thing come about, and what was it like?
But it was awesome, and obviously, but basically the way it worked is I used to be part of a TV show called The Human Guinea Pigs. So there's something else. I don't know if that's another one of your questions.
I was going to come on to that, but yeah, you could go into it.
it all links together. Go to YouTube. Pigs, you'll see me with crazy Krusty the Clown haircut, massive hair, basically just doing a UK very family friendly Jackass show. That came about because me and my mates used to get drunk and just do stupid stuff on camera. Before the days of Jackass, actually, we predated Jackass, but we were lame Jackass. It was like, dude, you fell over extreme, like nothing. It was so crap. When Jackass come out, then we pushed ourselves to do more. And anyway, that got picked up by Channel 5. Or a company called North On Television that put it on for Channel 5. It ended up going worldwide as well, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
Like we would get people from Japan, or Australia, or certain parts of America, and whatever else, just randomly add us on Facebook, and we're like, so guys, I think our show's airing in wherever, But anyway, from that, I got quite comfortable being on camera and stuff like that. And basically, there was a competition for Download Festival to become the spokesperson of Download. So I done my little video, a little like 60-second video, like showing my talents, I suppose, with a couple of friends that helped make the TV show. And basically, I didn't get it. but they invited me along, and then it happened again, and they invited me along, and then they rang me back and said, "Look, you were the guy we should have gone for. We realised, you know, they really wanted me to be a part of it, but they kept running out of money, and then they just kept saying sorry, giving us free tickets, but not becoming the spokesperson of Download Festival, even though it kept almost happening." I was DJing at the time in a little pub in Gravesend, and if you guys look up the model now DJ Mel Clark, she asked me if I could teach her how to DJ. So, I mean, I say teach her how to DJ, it was just basically showing her the basics of a mixer and stuff like that. She's very much, she's a very, very talented DJ nowadays, that she knows what she's doing big time. And I was like, so why am I teaching you how to DJ? Because she was a sort of an alternative model at the time. And she goes to me, because I'm DJing Download Festival. I'm like, what? So I got hold of the people I know at Download and said, look, I'm teaching your DJs how to DJ. How about you sort me out a set? And they did. And from there, the rest is history. Wow. I played there most years and got to know the rest of the DJs and stuff like that. And originally it was in the RIP, which is the VIP area. And it would very much be to small crowds of people, you know, just DJing mostly classic rock music, which is fine. You know, like Smoke on the Water, that sort of thing, you know, a bit of Slayer and all that sort of stuff. And but then it moved on to me playing in the Doghouse, as they call it, which is this big off tent with thousands of people in there. And that was when I started playing more my style, which was mixed between pumping rock music with hip hop and electro. And it goes down very well. People seem to.
It's funny you say that, because you wouldn't. I mean, yeah, obviously with the type of acts that go to Download, you would never think that hip hop rock thing would work. But I mean, clearly, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where if you take two genres and you mix it well, it really does go down well.
Yeah, I mean, I did make a mistake because obviously, as you know, like for people that don't know, but you know, 12-inch versions of songs, they could be like 5 or 6 minutes long or even longer. And the first couple of minutes is just a beat before it kicks into the main part of the song. And there was one time when I accidentally started playing the wrong track, and before you know it, Katy Perry started getting played. I'm like, stop. I was supposed to play a remix of Offspring or something.
That's probably but in the back, like, I love Katy Perry. Like,
yeah. Oh, you turned off fireworks. But no, basically, there was this. What I've discovered with going to like places like Download Festival is people are like, oh, I hate electronic music. It's all the same, but I love the Prodigy and I love Pendulum. And it's just like there are a lot more artists out there like Prodigy and Pendulum. I am not saying anything against those artists because I adore Prodigy and Pendulum. Obviously, I do, but I need to find more stuff like that, and that's what I brought to the table. You know, Jump Around isn't House of Pain's only hip hop tune, you know, stuff like that. So,
no, exactly.
You mix it well, it works, you know. So.
No, absolutely. And as I said, it's one of those things where I think it's starting to become more commonplace where genres are starting to do that crossover and stuff, which is nice to see. And as you said, I think it's nice also. In many different areas, you know, especially, I mean, comic books is a great example where, you know, kind of your mainstream comic books will obviously dominate, but it's nice to see just this influx of independent people, whether it be music or comic books or anything like that, that is slowly starting to rise to the top, and people are starting to get fed up of the mainstream and are now starting to move to these independents and these new pieces of talent coming through, and the same is with the music scene as well. And I think one thing that's always fascinated me was kind of how technology is trying to replace the person, and you know, with AI and things like that, especially in music, they're still trying to get the perfect mix, right, where they can kind of click a button and it will take two tracks and blend it together, and for the most part it does an okay job, but you still can never get the same type of mix than when you've got a DJ who knows exactly what he's doing and he mixes those two tracks together and it's just flawless. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, whether AI can catch up with the human brain and get that correct. But I think we're still a long way off.
Basic club tracks can be mixed so easily. You know, most of them, you know, the commercial stuff you hear are normally around that 130 BPM, and it's just so easy to put them together. They've got the same drops, they've got the same breaks. But when you're trying to mix it between each other very cleverly and you actually mix up the styles, that's when those sort of software it messes it up. It hasn't got there yet.
No, of course, no. And I think it's, as I said, it's one of those things where I think we're still a long way way off from having technology replace DJs. So, You're still in demand, mate. You're still in demand. So
yes,
I mean,
well, I don't DJ as much at the moment. I think my last set actually was a Retro Man Cave's cave.
Wow. Okay. Yes, I
went to
remember
Retro
that.
Man
Yeah.
Cave set and done a sort of crazy drum and bassy dubsteppy crazy mental set. Yeah, that was a good night.
I've now got images of Neil dancing around with like glow sticks in the Retro Man Cave. So, which to be fair, if anyone has forgot footage of that, please send it our way.
In a cardigan or something.
Yeah, exactly. We love you, Neil. We love you, really. But no, I mean, is that? Do you think there will ever come a stage where you'll maybe go back into DJing, or is now kind of YouTube and content creating your main?
I'm still up for DJing. I'm just not doing it as frequently. I mean, there was a time when I did DJing full time, as in club DJing full time, but it meant that. And that's before I had kids. I mean, I definitely couldn't do it now. I've got kids, but even then, before I had kids, me and my wife would sit down, start watching a movie, and the club promoter would ring me and go, "Oh, the DJ's not turned up. Can you come down?" I'm like, yeah, I have to. I was just losing so much. You'd lose your weekends more than your weekdays, and I want them. I like them, so I don't want to ever be held down with that sort of thing. I've put myself in a position where I can take YouTube full time, and I can be quite flexible. So I don't want you DJing to take over if I did it frequently.
No, absolutely, and as I said, I think you've got to kind of pick the things that are right for you, right? And I think it's always nice to have I don't want to use the word fallback, but I guess other interests in different areas that you could always go to. I think one thing I read about and saw a video about recently was kind of content creator burnout, where people were, to talk about YouTube briefly, people were constantly chasing the algorithm and trying to do this and trying to do that, and because they weren't getting the results that they were looking for, they just completely burnt themselves out, and the creativity was then lost. And the interesting thing was they were saying that people who have multiple different interests, whether that be, for instance, music or video editing or photography and stuff like that, having that ability to chop in and out of different creative mindsets just helps kind of keep that creativity going. I think that's quite an interesting thing to kind of think and also remember that, kind of when you get into that same rut of doing the same thing over and over again, it's very easy to get into that flow. I just dance on stream. That's kind of my thing. And wear stupid helmets, which I did, and it's actually sat on Crash over there for anyone who's wondering where that helmet ended up. So he's ready to take off at the moment. So, but yeah, as I said, it's kind of nice that you've kind of got that musical background as well as obviously the kind of gaming aspect. So, speaking of gaming, I'm just going to reach over and I'm going to grab these two consoles here. Here we go. Now, it's the question on everyone's mind, which is
everyone's gone.
Is Dan Mark 1 or Team Mark 2?
Team Mark 2. No. This right here is it only slightly works. Very original Mega Drive that I had when I was a kid.
Oh, Dan. Dan. I used to like you. Now you've ruined it.
I mean, I actually, believe it or not, I came up with this great idea when I was a teenager to clean this up. That if I take all the screws out and take all of the metal out and all the innards and stuff like that, I could put this in the washing machine. And I did.
I'm sure that ended well.
I lost the screws.
Good. That's a good start.
And that's rusty as all hell. I mean, that didn't go in, but
lovely. Look at that. We're getting.
That is my very original Mega Drive, and it is looking too shabby. But I couldn't get rid of this.
I think we need to donate to get Dan a new Mark 1. There we go.
You know what? Actually, it's true. I don't genuinely have a. I mean, this works. It technically works. It's like a Nokia 3210. You can't break one of these things.
Held together with gaffer tape and sticky tape. There we go.
I can't put it back together now unless I line up all the buttons. But it works. It's just that's my only Mega Drive 1, actually, I believe. I've got a Mega Drive 2 down there, my 32X, and the Mega CD 2. My Mega CD 1 is in the attic somewhere. But the system I'm using to play all my games on, sorry, retro fans, is this one. The Mega SG, which I am absolutely in love with. Can't get enough of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot about those, and they look really, really good. And obviously,
they're really nice. And play it with the M30 controller, the 2.4 gigahertz one. I love the little. Really like it.
It's always nice having wireless controllers, because the one thing I end up finding when I do my retro streams is I just have a plethora of cables around me, and basically if I sneeze, one of them will come out. So having at least one thing that's wireless can be quite a relaxing thing. So, but yes, those look pretty cool, I must say.
I got these. I've actually got them somewhere. I don't know where they are. I've got so obviously that's the receiver for the 2.4 gigahertz one, but then there's also a larger receiver which is like twice the fatness of that. So you can plug in like Xbox controllers or whatever else. And I remember when we played Micro Machines at Retro Man Cave's place, we had 2 of those sticking out, plus an Amstrad controller, the Amstrad Mega Drive controller, and a proper controller all plugged into this. It just like the weirdest, dirtiest contraption, but. Yeah, I
like that. I like the MacGyver way of just pumping stuff together to make it work. That's my thing. That's pretty much how most of my streams work, to be honest. I just swear at it and gaffer tape it up until it works, and that's why we end up with things like we've got today. But no, I mean they look like a fantastic bit of kit, and I mean I just love the fact that I don't have to faff around with converters and boxes and stuff like that for HDMI outputs. I mean, do you find that there's much of an issue with that particular product, or are you happy with the way that it kind of emulates and pushes out that HD signal?
It's literally perfect. I remember one of the hardcore guys at Sega said you can tell how good emulation is by when you run through the end of a Sonic level, and you run through the little spinny little thing at the end.
That was an impressive sound effect, by the way.
That sound can emulate it. It can tell you how good the emulation is. And the emulation on that, I put the 2 and 2 together. I'm like, I can't really tell the difference, honestly. So
very impressive. I am impressed with that. So
I mean, people don't class it as emulation, do they? It's got that FGPA chip, which I don't know the ins and outs of, but people say it's so perfectly close. I mean, it replicates it that people don't see it as emulation.
Sure,
a lot of people don't. Anyway.
No, I think that's the nice thing. It's one of those things where if you can kind of blend together original hardware with kind of the new upgrades and stuff, that's quite nice. And I guess that's one of the current ongoing issues with kind of current retro consoles, where if you want to kind of take your original things and kind of boost those up into the modern day by using the original things that are in there, there's 9 times out of 10 there's a lot of upheaval that you have to go through, and obviously that involves a soldering iron, and if you're not very good with one of those, you could end up doing a lot of damage. So
by the way, just to continue on with that point, Steady Sphere says Sega giving tips on emulation and Nintendo killing it.
Yes.
Polar opposite.
Yeah. No.
I just want to say that Sega weren't telling me to go out and emulate stuff. It was very much he didn't see the point in emulation because he has all of his original systems set up. So he was actually saying like that's why he plays on original hardware, because he wants it as perfect.
Sure.
So, they're not telling me to emulate.
That's a good point. So if you are watching Sega, he has just made a factual statement. So there we go. I don't think I'm big enough to have
these views do not reflect the
yes, yeah.
Sega.
These views are not reflective of Daniel. So there we go. But yes, no, it's great, and I think your collection itself is nice, and I always find it nice to be able to pull out the original hardware and plug it in. There's just something really nostalgic and lovely about having to just plug it in, but then I feel like I'm doing it a disservice, because then I go from that and then I plug it into this junction box in my PC, and then I'm like, it doesn't feel the same, years ago we used to have to tune the TV in.
Get all of that original hardware out, but then you've got to shuck it through OSSC boxes and God knows whatever else to try and make it look good on a current TV, and then all of a sudden that retro feel doesn't look the same when you've got it on that big HD TV.
Exactly, no, absolutely. So going back into consoles, kind of, what was your first gaming memory as a child?
Playing on the Amstrad CPC 464, and that game either Bridget or Oh Mummy. I think it was Bridget though, and that was my first ever gaming experience. And from what it probably wasn't, but it's the first one I remember. For those that don't know, Amstrad came with a lot of Amsoft titles. They were like the packing games, the cheap ones that they made themselves. Alan Sugar, the guy behind it, very much didn't care for software. He was just get some cheap hardware, job done. And I had like 10 games, I suppose, for it. I probably didn't even know what I was doing, but essentially what you got to do, you start at the top left, I think it was, and these little like stickmen people just come along and they go across this big windy bridge and get to the bottom, and you have to try and get them to the bottom. But while they're going there's little flaps that open up like that, and you have to push the right button to make sure that they go down for when the person goes across it.
Right.
As the game goes on, it's literally impossible. Like, that's not just me, it's really hard. No, it is literally impossible to get every person down because you can only push a certain amount of buttons. You can't like hold them all down, you know. If you save one person, another person will die. There's just or fall in the water. Maybe they're not dying, you know.
I was gonna say that's very dramatic for a game that's on an Antra CPC. But hey, that's not the first time we've seen retro games having something quite violent, right? So you must make a decision. Everyone dies. Oh, I don't know. I'm only 12. I don't want to make this decision. But I think the other thing that I wanted to go into is obviously you have a very, very, very high love for Sega. So
yes,
where did that spawn from? What was kind of the catalyst for you bringing that love to Sega? I'm fascinated to hear this one.
It's absolutely no different than everybody else that loves Nintendo and Sega during the 90s or Sega during the 90s. You love what your mum or dad got you, you know. I remember going past this little record shop that sometimes had electronics, looking in the windows, seeing a Mega Drive. But I was so in love with my Amstrad. Mum was like, you know, anytime someone showed me like a Commodore or an Amiga or whatever it was, I was like, not as good as my Amstrad, which obviously a lot of the games definitely were. But I was so brainwashed as a kid. And I remember seeing a Mega Drive in the window, and I think it was Mum or someone was like, oh, that looks good, doesn't it? They were actually trying to build up excitement for me because I was getting it that Christmas. And I was like, yeah, it kind of does, you know, like that. And then I realized I was this new system. Right. So I started to like look into it a little bit more. And then I got invited to a Halloween by Invicta FM for any UK players out there that remember Invicta FM. But I knew someone that worked at Invicta FM, and they had a big Halloween event in some field somewhere. And one of the vendors there was Sega. And they had the big Sega bus, and you could go onto the big Sega bus. And the first thing I saw when I walked onto that Sega bus was Michael Jackson's Moonwalker and Chuck Rock. But the guy invited me upstairs to the top deck, and there was just this big bus full of TVs, and I just sat there and played Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the first time, and I was just like, what is this? My God, this is pretty good, isn't it? And it blew me away. Like, I'm getting goosebumps remembering how exciting that was. Like, because, you know, I'd played on a Master System, and I'd played on an NES a little bit, and obviously a lot of home computers at the time. And jumping from these different systems to each other, they felt kind of like, they obviously you could see improvements on. I mean, I could definitely see that Mario Bros. For the NES was better than pretty much, well, definitely any platformer that I'd played on my system. But it didn't look massively better. Obviously, it was. I mean, you know, you got to put yourself in the mind of like the 6-year-old I was at the time or whatever. But when I played Sonic the Hedgehog, and I was just seeing this character zoom across the screen, and it didn't feel uncontrollable. Like I was fully in control of this. I was just like blown away, and I was like, "This is insane." And I remember that Christmas, I opened up the big box. You know, I'd opened up all my presents, and then, you know, the funny was, oh, well, that's all your presents. You can open up one of your sisters if you want. And I opened it up, and there was a Mega Drive inside. I was like, what the fuck? And I was just like so excited. And it was the first time I ever, because I was quite strict in my family, but it was the first time I shouted at my dad at the time. And I was like, quickly, plug it in, quick. And I had to plug it in, and I finally played on Sega, Sonic the Hedgehog again for the second time, number one. And I was just like, from that day on, absolutely been hooked. And I've just always been really interested in the history of Sega as a whole. In fact, I'll tell you what it is I remember going in like game shops and stuff, you know, towards in the noughties and stuff like that sort of time, retro game shops. And people would like bash on the Sega, the 32X, or they'd say like, "Oh my God, do you remember Mega Man? Mega Man was." Well, they'd say all of these different things. Oh yeah, that video game crash of 1983. And this is obviously no kind of slur on the American YouTubers, because I think they're so good at what they do, especially the early day ones. That in the UK, the way it worked is a lot of people started believing that was our history, and it really, really wasn't. You know, like, I honestly don't remember hearing about Mega Man until possibly like the PlayStation or even PlayStation 2 era of gaming. Like, it just wasn't a thing. I mean, to be fair, when a kid, I went to a school with 70 kids. That was the entire population of my school. It was tiny. So, you know, I didn't have a lot of injection from other consoles. It was pretty much, luckily everyone there had a Sega and not one person had a Super Nintendo. So it was like the school of Sega. you know, like all of these history pieces, like the video game crash, that really wasn't a thing in the UK. And during the video game crash, I was obsessed with buying games, and everyone around me was, you know, for home computers. It just wasn't really a thing.
Sure.
You know, so I wanted to start telling these stories that, you know, Nintendo wasn't the massive dominant force that a lot of younger people, not even that much younger, like 10 years ago, because the American YouTubers have done such a good job in showing their history, they believe it's our history. And, you know, Nintendo was not the dominant force in the UK. So I was like, right, it's time to start telling the history of home computers and Sega, which was definitely what I heard all about. You know, there are exceptions. You know, Top Hat Gaming Man, he grew up with more Super Nintendo than anyone else. And I do remember the odd occasion seeing an NES or a Super Nintendo just about. But yeah, it was a heavy home computer and Sega dominated, and that's. I've answered probably about 50 other of your questions now, just moving into other things.
You're now making this very difficult for me. But no, as I said, it's really nice, and I think this is one of the things that I like about my podcast, is it's nice to get everybody's historical story of what they've played on, the history behind it, the experience, that nostalgia of opening things up for the first time and plugging things in and getting that first experience. I mean, I remember, and I think a few other people in chat will probably, who've watched my Q&A video, will remember the first time I got my Super Nintendo, which wasn't actually played by me. It was actually played by my dad the night before Christmas, who very carefully, he didn't, tore open the box for my Super Nintendo, and
with my family as well. They played my
and ended up playing Donkey Kong Country before I even got there. So I was just like, okay, this is awkward. But yeah, I mean, it's funny how those things stick in your mind, especially when it comes to retro gaming, of getting that console for the first time or playing a specific game for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those just sit ingrained in your mind, and I think that's always a nice thing to have, especially, you know, as you said, your collection that you've got there is still being able to pick up a game and go, do you know what? I've got some really good memories of this. It's something that's always nice to go back and revisit.
Exactly. I mean, who would have known? Say, what would have happened if, like, you know, that record shop had a Super Nintendo in the window, you know, and I went to an event and Nintendo was showing something. It could have completely changed. You know, it's just the way it is. I mean, I'm literally wearing Nintendo clothing right now. I've got nothing against Nintendo, obviously. I just, like, you know, I talk about the history and personal history. It was just non-existent.
No, and I think that's an important thing to remember. Is it's always it's important to bring your own kind of thoughts and views to things, which obviously you do to your videos, where, you know, it's kind of your life experiences, and then kind of, you know, bring in the historical knowledge that you've gained through the research that you do. So, and obviously I think that adds a bit of passion to it as well, where you bring your own historical things, because it's your own story, right? It can't really be made up because it's your life. So
I'll tell you what, it is a perfect example. Actually, I've got a video going on tomorrow. It's all about Pokemon, believe it or not. And it's all to do with facts around Pokemon. And the first thing, I haven't actually filmed it yet. That's why I've got my studio lights next to me to do stuff. But the first thing that's going to be said in the video is, I've never played a Pokemon game. Just to set it up, you know? Because I do feel it's important to you know, show your love for, you know, if you've got a personal history with something, it's good to talk about that.
To be honest, I have to admit, it was. I remember when I was at school and everyone went through this massive Pokemon craze. And I had a Game Boy at the time, and I was like, you know, cool. And I remember Pokemon kicking off, and there was this big thing. And I literally, and this is probably going to get people raging in the chat right now, I literally couldn't care for Pokemon back then. I literally had no interest in it at all. And people were like, oh my god, it's so great. And then I was just like, cool, yeah, you go and enjoy that. I'll just go and, like, jump on things and shoot things up on my Game Boy. Cool, you go and trade, like, weird animals. I was like, all right. And it's funny, it's only until probably maybe 10 years ago. I don't know why. I have no reason why. I just randomly picked up Pokemon Red, and I went, right, time to have a go. And now I understand. I understand it fully.
I understand why it's so popular. It's an incredible series from Nintendo, and you know, I do catch the bug every so often when someone, you know, the new one comes out and everyone loses their mind. I'm like, oh, this does look good actually. I think I would get into this and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, I don't get the same love for Zelda, but that's the story. But yeah, like, what I want to do is like what you do. I just want to pick up one of these games. Right, let's actually give this a go, and I know it's going to take over. I know it will.
I've had that quite recently with because I mean I was never really into sort of JRPGs at all. It was just never my thing.
I'm not.
And the thing that kind of kicked that off was not really related, but I mean years ago when I used to work at a game station store, a colleague of mine was like, "Right, you've not played Final Fantasy VII." I'm like, "Yeah," and he was like, "You need to go and play it," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went away and I played it, and I was like, okay, I kind of get this now. I fully understand it. And then I went for ages without playing any of those games. And then I started getting into Phantasy Star and kind of playing the old Mega Drive versions. And I was like...
Yeah, that's one Sega property I don't know anything about.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I kind of now am starting to understand why people like these games. I'm starting to get it. So I've now finished Phantasy Star 1, so I'm like going to start 2 soon. So yeah, I'm slowly starting to beat. I feel like I'm beating myself. I'm like, you must play these games, otherwise you will be cast out and you'll be put into the corner as a bad person. But no, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's nice to go back and play games that I previously ignored. To now kind of understand what people's fascination and interest in those games were.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, like I think it's, I think a true retro gamer isn't goes out and buys the games they had as a kid. But a true retro gamer is a gamer that actually goes out there and experiences that they didn't have when they were younger. Right now, I'm going through a heavy shmup phase. I'm buying a lot of Japanese Mega Drive shmup games. I've got like one that I'm playing quite a lot at the moment is Sector X. I'm playing that quite a lot. I've got Crying, which is Biohazard Battle. Just a few different things like that. I'm really enjoying that, and even newer ones on the Switch as well. RXN, Dimension Drive. I bloody love that game. Not really a shmup, it's more of a puzzle game. I've got the new Raiden game coming, Raiden 4 or 5. I don't know Roman numerals.
We all struggle, mate. It's fine.
Rocky 1 plus Rocky 2.
Yeah.
So
how many noises does Rocky make? If he makes more than you don't know, then you know which Rocky it is.
So so that's the phase I'm going. I've played Final Fantasy VII. I understand why it's so big, but yeah, I'm not a big JRPG guy either.
I'm glad you share my passion. See, now if anyone cusses me out, I can point your way to Dan, so he can back me up. I've got a brother in the support now. This is good.
I'll tell you one game I don't get why it's so big is Ocarina of Time. Get ready to lose all my subscribers, but Ocarina of Time just doesn't do it for me. And I've tried so hard.
Do you know what? It's funny you say that, and I hope my dad's not watching this, actually, because he'll probably kick my ass if I say this. So, a funny story with Ocarina of Time. So, I was off school. I basically had chicken pox, so obviously I was not at school. And I was just so sad. I don't know why. I was like, off school, I should have been happy. And I remember these were the back in the days when Blockbuster Video was still around. And I think we rented something, and he went back and he came back with this box. And I was like, oh, what's this? And he was like, oh, I've brought you back this N64 game, Pop Ocarina of Time. And I was like, okay, I've heard a lot about this. And little did I know that he'd actually bought it for me. So I was like, okay, fine. And I remember I played it all the way through, and I got to the end, and I was like, I don't know if I enjoyed this or not, which sounds horrible to say. I genuinely got to the end of it, and I was like, I don't know if I enjoyed this or not. I think I did.
Got the same feeling with Breath of the Wild, which I did play all the way through, but over the last year or so, roughly, I've been thinking, you know what? I think I want to play Breath of the Wild again. So it's definitely caught me. It's definitely got it hooks into me. Just at the time, I just kept remember. I think it's because there's so much hype, and I'm not one of these people like I liked it when it wasn't cool, wasn't big, but I do remember people just losing their minds. Like, Ocarina of Time, no longer the greatest game of all time. Breath of the Wild is the greatest game of all time, and I'm playing it. I'm like, it's good, but like, greatest game of all time? Are we serious? And I'm like, I just keep putting comparisons in my head. And I'm like, the way he climbs up a wall, it's just him doing this. He's not actually holding on to anything. It's just like some brown poo surface. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to be, and this is such a horrible comparison, but have you seen the way that the characters climb up walls in things like Uncharted or Assassin's Creed? They look incredible. And I'm like,
there's a lot of detail there.
Is like the greatest game of all time. It just seems so much like obvious, and I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, I want to play it again. There you go. There's my. I was stupid enough to buy the massive collector's set, even though I've actually.
That's quite impressive, actually. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things. Zelda's always been a bit of a love-hate thing with myself, and I don't know. I really enjoyed kind of the NES and SNES versions, and then when it kind of got ported over to the N64, I just couldn't. I don't know why. It just didn't have that pull for me. But I mean, the Breath of the Wild, I enjoyed it. But yeah, again, it was just one of those games where I thought the hype just didn't match the game. And you know, it's a very pleasurable game. It's very enjoyable, and I think the nice thing about it is it's one of those games where you don't have to just jump in and fully commit. You can obviously take your time and do it at your own pace, which is nice. It's nice to have a game like that. But yeah, I second your opinion now. I think it's very strange that there was just this massive hype machine behind it, and Zelda is so massive now. Yeah, it's so big. I don't think it's like Star Wars. People will watch it no matter how good or bad it is, and I mean, obviously it's very good, but Ocarina of Time, I just can't get into. I bought a 3DS solely so I could play the new version of the game. And I'm like, right now, this is my time. I'm going to get into this because it's so important to gaming history, that game. And I remember I actually went on a work retreat, and there was a guy there. Oh my God, you're playing Ocarina, greatest game ever made. Blah blah blah. I'm like, okay. So I'm like playing this game, and I'm like halfway through the game, or it felt like it took me hours and hours to get here. I'm such an arcadey guy. Like, give me Outrun. That don't take any time at all. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, and I'm playing this game, and I'm getting through it, and I'm like, he's like, so where are you? And already by this point, I'm so fucking bored. And I'm like, it's Link's just grown up into an adult. I think I'm about to complete it, if I'm honest. He's like, mate, you're like halfway through the game, and I'm like, fuck this, and I just stopped playing. I'm like, I can't play this anymore.
Yeah, do you know what? Wind Waker was actually much better, and I don't think that gets as much love. I just don't know. I don't know why Ocarina of Time just seems to be this bullet dart that people go, no, that's it, that's the one. There will never be anything better, and it's like you've.
Yeah, I mean, saying that, right? I completed through. Majora's Mask. I completed that one. I actually quite enjoyed that one. That's the only Zelda I've completed. I've started playing Wind Waker, but not really giving it any time. But I realised, this is actually a game. I think I'm going to get into this, and I know I'm going to enjoy Wind Waker. Like, I've got the HD one for Wii U. I quite enjoyed Twilight Princess, but for some reason I stopped playing. But I quite enjoyed that. But out of all of them, the one that I've enjoyed the most, I've literally told you every Zelda game I've played now. The one I've actually enjoyed the most is Phantom Hourglass, which is one that like no one really cares about.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. I
remember really enjoying. There you go.
Yeah, that is an interesting choice. Yeah. Well, I think
I'd say it's my favourite. I've only played like 10% of Zelda games, probably.
There we go. We need a video on your favourite Zelda games from top 10. There we go.
My top 10 Zelda games that you definitely not agree with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that will probably cause some rage in the comment section for sure. So, I mean, what's kind of your most obscure thing that you've got in your collection? Is there one thing that you're like, I bet no one's got this? I'm fascinated to see now. He's looking around the room. This could be interesting.
I'm seeing if I've actually got it nearby. I have a box. Do you want me to be really unprofessional? Scurry through.
Do it.
Talking. I'll be back.
Okay. I will keep going. For anyone who's currently watching this live, thank you all very much for sharing, following, and I should probably keep an eye on what the hell's been going on. Actually, bear with me. Let's have a look. As you can see, this is you can tell this is going out live. You can see what I'm doing. But yes, for all the follows and hosts and everything, thank you all very much. There we go. Dan's back.
I have a never been opened. I'm not a CIB collector. I've only got 2 games that are CIB. The other one, in case you was interested, is the Knights game for Sega Saturn. I've got the never opened version of that. But anyway, I've also got a never opened copy of Sonic Jam for the game.com.
Wow. Now, I don't quite know what to say to that. I'm both impressed, intrigued, and confused at the same time. So
and disappointed. You can
I tell you what, I was going in my head. I'm thinking, what could he be pulling out? I'm thinking console. I'm thinking game, and then I saw game.com, and I'm going, you sure about that? Okay. Do you know what? I remember when that console first came out, and I was like, yeah, yeah, I could definitely get behind this. Yeah, yeah. And then I remember seeing one in a shop, and I had literally went on it for about 5 minutes, and I was like, "Ooh, yeah, I think I'll obscure my way around that." That is fascinating. Right, how did you obtain that? I have to know a story behind it.
eBay is about 11 quid. I think there might even be a guy still selling. Found some new old stock, and I'm talking. This was like 15, 20 years ago. I bought it.
Wow. I mean, can you can you honestly imagine the poor bastard who had to open that box and go, "Oh, I've got a load of Game.com stuff here."
It's probably like an episode of like storage container, like, Storage Wars. He's like, "Oh, for God's sake!"
Yeah, he's opened up.
There you go. They're still selling them on eBay. The guy's still selling them. Sonic Jam, Game.com, 1998, new sealed Game.com, Tiger, £16.46.
Don't let Octavius Kitten hear that. She'll probably buy the whole lot. I know how much she loves the Game.com, but yeah, it was it definitely did not do what it was meant to do.
He's only got 6 left. He has sold 82. I'm not that much of a unique flower. There's another 81 people.
Oh, damn. There we go. But yeah, I could just imagine that now. Some storage container that they've auctioned off, and this guy's paid a load of money, and he's opened it up, and there's just this single box sat in the middle, and then he opens it up, and it's just, oh, for God's sake. Like, I'm expecting that one golden thing, and he's ended up with a whole box of Game.com crap. So, never mind. But yeah, that's fascinating that you've obtained that, and also a sealed copy of Knights. I like that.
Well, it's half sealed. I'll show it to you.
Oh, what a tease! He's teasing it. There we go.
It's the American release for some reason. But yeah, I mean, the outer box is definitely not sealed. But as you open it up. I mean, look how perfectly crisp. I've only used it like 2 or 3 times. That controller is the
that 3D pad looks good.
Controller. You got the big manual at the back, but then as we go in, there it is. There's my sealed copy.
Yay! There it is. What a beautiful sight it is. Did you know I played it? God, blimey, how many months ago was it now? I can't even remember now. It was on my Game Blast stream I played it, and it was only the 3rd time I'd ever played it, I think. And do you know, it's a real shame. It was one of those franchises that I think deserved a lot more love than it got.
Yeah, I think there's talk, there's rumours of another one happening. There was a competition they held, or a competition like a survey they held on some really classic Sega site during the Wii days, where they said, what game do you want to come back more than any? Streets of Rage came 2, unfortunately, but Knights came first, and that's why they released the sequel for Wii.
Ah, fascinating. That's interesting to know. Do you know what I would love to see a game like Knights in VR. I think just
that is perfect.
It would just be the perfect mix. I mean, obviously they would probably have to slow the game down a little bit, because otherwise you'd end up with hella motion sickness. But yeah, that would just be perfect. And Sega haven't actually done any VR games as of yet, have they? In modern VR, I should say.
I mean, obviously you've got the VR version of the Sega Mega Drive collection or Sega Genesis collection, which you can play on PC. I think you can actually got the PSVR version.
That's right,
now as well. So you've got things like that. Space Channel 5 is a VR version of that, but Sega's not doing it, I don't believe. Right. I think it's like the same way Streets of Rage are, sort of put out to a third party. I think that might be it. I know there's like, VR versions of like, sort of like the new age Sega games, like the rhythm games and stuff like that. I can't remember her name, like the girl with the big blue hair. Insert Japanese name here.
I know someone who will know that, and that will be Trista Bites, who will probably put that
Trista Bites will know
in chat shortly. But yeah, I mean, the only other game that caught my interest, and it was actually based off another one of your videos that you did, was Rez, because that is in VR, and I thought,
yes, of course, yes.
Rez in VR could be very fun. So I may be teasing that as my next stream, but anyway, we'll see. We'll see.
I think it's Stage X or whatever it is I called it. It was when I wrote that. But yeah, that's a beautiful extra mode they've added for that.
Hatsune Miku, there you go. There is.
That's the one. A new begin with a T.
There we go. See, I was correct in my assumption that Bex would know it. So clearly I've not lost it yet. Right, so we are headed into the last 5 minutes. So what I'm going to now do, Dan, is I'm going to offer it up to you to tease and promote yourself and explain anything new that you've got coming from yourself. In the future.
Things new. I'm so off the cuff at the moment. But I want my next video, like I said, the one tomorrow is a Pokemon related video. But don't worry, it's not generic facts like, did you know the origin name of... It's nothing like that. These are really, really... For someone like me that doesn't play Pokemon, really weird, obscure, interesting facts of Pokemon. So that's coming hopefully tomorrow if I can get it finished in time. I have a kick scammer in the works, which will either be, I'm looking for a couple more just to add on to it, either be the following weekend, so this weekend coming, or possibly the one after that. But in regards to complete histories and all that sort of stuff, I mean, I just work them out as I go along. Altered Beast will definitely be happening sooner rather than later. I'd like to do Virtua Racing, but another very, very, very good channel called Sega Lord X actually has just done that, so I'd feel a bit like I'm ripping him off if I do it so quickly. Yeah, good channel there. But I mean, nothing. There's nothing crazy in the works. I've got lots of cool ideas for lots of mini videos, and basically, what will happen is I'll get to, Monday, and I'll realize, right, what am I going to do my video on? I have a look through, like, oh, I know something that will go with this, and I'll just make a video on it, and that's how I roll.
No, I think that's quite nice that you kind of do it off the cuff. I mean, I've done a lot of. Well, I mean, I've done a lot of my YouTube channel still very much in its infancy, but especially when it comes to game stream, I'll just kind of go along, oh, that'd be quite cool, which I think is quite nice to kind of have that. I mean, I'm trying to get to a place where I'm kind of a bit more organised. Won't happen, but yeah, it's nice that you kind of do.
It's hard.
Do things like that.
I said to you before we went on the stream that I'm sort of technically a little bit part time because on Thursdays and Fridays I don't actually work a full day in the office because I look after my daughter while my wife goes to work at a real proper job. That's going to be changing in about a month or so time when she starts going into nursery and stuff. So I'm going to have a lot more time to work on it, and it'll become yet again a 5-day-a-week video. So I'll hopefully be able to be a lot more organised, but hopefully.
Yeah, no, well, that's great. So I think that's probably time to hand things back to yourself and allow you to get on with content creation. I have just pumped Dan's wonderful links in chat, so there he is on YouTube and on Twitter, so please make sure you go and follow him. I am a massive advocate of his work, and it is a pleasure to watch his content, and I'm not just trying to feed your ego, that is definite approval from the Mean Machine, so there we go.
Approval from the Mean Machine, that's going on DVD.
There we go. There we go. I'll do the best of, and it'll be a big stamp that hits the screen or something like that. So, right. Anyway, so for all of you who have sat and listened to this, thank you all very, very much. I've seen follows, bits, chats, hosts, and all sorts gone on. So those are all greatly appreciated and supported.
Massive guys.
Well done. Huge thank you to this man here. So if I can get some hype in chat for Dan for putting up with me and giving up a small portion of his very important time for me, which is greatly appreciated. So,
I really appreciate it too. Thank you so much.
So, as I said, and if you are watching this on demand, a big thank you. All of Dan's links will be put into the description on any platform that you're watching this on. But anyway, I think it's about time to give you some time back, Dan. So, from me, MeanMachineDean, and from Dan of Slopes Game Room, it's a very, very good afternoon, and I hope you have a wonderful Saturday wherever you are. So, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.